Star Wars Rebels Season 2, Episode 14, The Call. Definitely an awesome episode, very Force-centric, specifically for Ezra in this episode, and I really enjoyed that. We got these very interesting creatures, which I don't know, and I guess it doesn't matter at this point because all of the extended universe is no longer canon, but I don't know if these creatures ever existed beforehand, in novels and things like that in the Star Wars universe, but I thought they were really interesting, and we get, this sort of legend of these creatures, and then we find out, of course, that these creatures, which were named, like, the Frugrus or something weird like that, I forgot the actual name of them, but we find out that they can actually travel through hyperspace, which I thought was a very cool little reveal at the end of the episode, but I really love this one. I thought it was really cool. We got to see, seemingly, these creatures are ancient creatures. I mean, based on Hera's story, these are the creatures that did inspire people to travel through hyperspace, and I don't know how that translated from creatures to ships, because I feel like something had to go on there, but I thought that was actually really cool. It was a nice little thing to see, because it's just something I've never seen before in anything, where an actual creature travels, through hyperspace. It's always some form of technology, even if it's a really ancient form of technology. It's still technology. It didn't come from an actual creature, out in space somewhere. So I thought that was really cool. Ezra was basically, reading this thing's mind at one point when he fell into the gas, and it was like he was seeing all the space, and I didn't know what to expect, because I was like, his eyes are lighting up and all this stuff. It's like he's going through the galaxy or something crazy. And I was like, man, what in the world is happening with these creatures? He has this really deep connection, because he has the connection even before they actually show up in the episode. He can hear them, and even Kanan can't. So it was very interesting that he had such a immense connection to these creatures, and the whole episode is him basically trying to figure out, like, what is it that they need in order to, kind of move on, and how can we help them. And I actually really enjoyed that. The action was good. Ezra was just, this really weird position, just trying not to be super violent towards them, and trying not to be too violent in general, because he didn't want to screw stuff up so that he could help these creatures. But it was really fun. And the beginning of the episode I really loved, because we've never seen the team in such dire, straits. Like, they had basically no power. It starts off, they're like freezing cold because they have to, convert power here and there, and it's like, alright, we have to do like a tiny controlled burst just to land on this little asteroid, and we can only have so much power. The doors weren't even automatic. So I actually like that idea, because they were struggling, and they had to really figure out, how the heck are we going to survive? We have this mission we have to get to. They can complete the mission and refuel at the same time, but the task is getting on, that platform, getting the ship to land, really. And I love that idea. It was like, man, they can't just, fly in, because if they could, this episode would be super short. They would have flown in, and they would have solved the problem, no big deal. They could have used the ship, most likely, as support, but they didn't have that type of power. It had to stay hidden, and they really had to figure something out to get the ship down and get it refueled so that it could take off. And I just love the way that constantly played out in the beginning. It's like, alright, we have to revert power here. It's just going to get colder. Automatic doors are shut down. Tiny little, bursts of energy. Otherwise, they would just be stuck floating, and then they'd run out of oxygen and die. And it was just really fun. They have to deal with TIE fighters and stuff, and, reverting power here and there. And Kanan was super freaked out, or Ezra was super freaked out, which I don't think we've ever really seen before. But it was fun. Like, I enjoyed that sort of new dynamic for the team, because it's like, oh crap, they are struggling right now. They can't just, be their normal team. They have to really decide, excuse me, where's power, sorry about that. They have to decide, like, where's power gonna go to, and, how are they gonna get to this ship, or to this little station. I guess they were on a comet the whole time. I thought that they were, going down to a planet, but I guess the giant asteroid was on, or was just in, like, the upper atmosphere, because that's what Kanan mentioned when they decided to dive down, which was very cool to me. And he's like, we're in the upper atmosphere, we'll just jump down and they won't even see us. I thought that was a very awesome plan. That was really cool. Of course, Kanan does like a force push to help himself, and then he has to catch Ezra, because Ezra couldn't do it. So that was actually really cool. It's like, man, that just looked really sweet. And they, like they're skydiving or something, and they just need like a tiny little push because they are still falling, but just a little push, and then they're fine once they get close to the surface. But that was pretty sweet. I think the action was really good, especially um, Kanan in this episode. He was like reflecting a lot of very powerful stuff because normally we don't get to see this, but he's like reflecting TIE fighters. He was reflecting blasts from that cannon, and it's kind of like taking a really hard strike. Like a regular blaster is kind of dead even with a lightsaber. Like it'll just reflect and it's nothing. But when it's a powerful blast, like from a TIE fighter or from one of the turrets, he'd block it and it would kind of like you know recoil a little bit. And I thought that was cool because we don't really get to see that happen. Because normally it's like, all right, it's either a blaster or it's way too big. Like if it was an AT-AT, then he wouldn't have been able to just deflect that. I don't think he would, at least. I think those blasts are much bigger than even TIE fighters. But it was really fun. Like, we got to see him go up against TIE fighters. We got to see him. I can't remember if it was Kanan or Ezra, but one of them. I think it was Ezra, actually. It was Ezra. And he, like, chops one of the wings off of the TIE fighters at the end. I thought that was pretty cool. And it was just a fun episode. And then I didn't expect this to happen, but the creature, which I don't know the name of that specific creature species in the universe, but I didn't think that guy was gonna get eaten. And he's like, you guys take them down and I'll cover you. And so he goes to take off, and these things just surround him, and he's like, oh crap. And I didn't expect him. I thought they were gonna kind of just keep him locked in place. I was like, are they gonna eat him? And then they definitely do. Like they don't show him get like swallowed or anything, but he's like halfway in. I'm like, oh nope, he's definitely gonna get eaten and he'll be dead because I'm sure they dragged him into the the smoke and everything. So that kind of surprised me because I was like, oh, he's like officially done for. This isn't like, oh, I'm kind of escaping or anything. He was eaten and he's dead. So that surprised me. It was just a very interesting little moment. Like I said, I definitely enjoyed the action for this episode. One thing that was very surprising but really enjoyable was Kanan and Hera in this episode because they actually argued a bit. And I mentioned this before, I think it was in the last episode, that we don't really get to see a lot of them like as a couple. We didn't see it in this one either, except for the arguing. But I thought that was cool because they never, they have their differences when it's like how they should go about a mission. But this was just like they were kind of arguing, and Kanan was being like super sarcastic about stuff, and it was really funny because Hera's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot these things and like blast them out of our way, and Kanan's like, just let them, let them do what they do, and then Ezra has the idea to follow them and stuff like that, and of course they have to after they get attacked, and Kanan comes down and he's on the comms, it's like, boy, it's a good thing we didn't attack, and then of course Hera cuts him off, and he walks down just to say the same thing, like, phew, it's a good thing we didn't use our power to attack the the creatures. And then when they when they have to follow him, he's like, "Oh, how about that?" And it was so funny to see him be, such a sarcastic person because he never really, Kanan isn't that sarcastic, and just the way they did it with him and Hera, having arguments and stuff like that, it's something that we don't really see in this way. It's always just how to go, how to go about a mission. That's generally it. So I like seeing them actually kind of bicker a little bit in this episode, and they were just, especially Hera, she was kind of legitimately tired of everyone, I think, in the opening of this episode, because her thing is the ship. She's the captain of the ship, and I'm sure it bugged the crap out of her not being able to just do like her part of the mission like she normally does. I mean, she's as the captain, she's the one who flies in, like scopes the area and all this other extra stuff, and she's kind of just stuck because they don't have power. So I can see how that would affect her personality a little bit in the opening of this episode, and I kind of like that. I think that's kind of how that felt like how it was playing out a little bit. Like she was already annoyed, like we're already screwed. Ultimately, I'm the one in charge here, converting power and making sure the right power, the little bit of power we have goes to the perfect, parts of the ship. And then I got to deal with them talking about like, don't do this, and this is exactly what we should do and stuff. So I like the way they did it. I thought it was actually kind of funny. Definitely an enjoyable episode. Um, Action, like I said, was really good. The comedy was good. I love the fact that Sabine spray painted the helmet, the Stormtrooper helmet that Kanan gave her, and I thought it looked cool personally. But it was funny. He was like, "I thought you just wanted to look at it." She was like, "And I did, and it was ugly." So I thought that was pretty funny. I thought it did look pretty cool though. Like, and just the way she did it on the front, I thought was actually pretty sweet. So I like it. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing that show up again. But that was cool. Just the bond that Ezra had with these creatures, I thought was very interesting, and this is something we hadn't seen before. And I like the fact that this was yet another force, sensitive type of episode. Not to, it's kind of weird to say force sensitive because that's an actual thing in the universe, but it's a force centric episode, I guess. And those are always really fun. And just like with the last one, it had a deep emotional impact. And this one wasn't as personal, of course, as Zeb, so it wasn't like you could easily feel it. But in some ways, that's what makes the Force entertaining, is that it's not just, force fed to you. Like, oh, here it is. It's the Force, and this is the exact bond. And this is exactly why it's happening. And even with Zeb, it wasn't 100% clear. And that's kind of one of the things I like about, Force-based episodes, is that for whatever reason, this bond or connection just forms, and it's the Force, and that's just how it is. So I really enjoyed that. I thought it was fun to have that again in this episode. Um, Not a clue what the next episode is going to be. I'm getting annoyed, honestly, that they keep showing that same promo after every episode. It's like, why do they even bother showing this? It's the same thing, which is basically saying the show comes on Wednesdays. That's pretty much what that promo is, and it's like, I wish they would just show clips of the next episode. That would actually be really nice, but every time it's like, nope, here's this stupid, useless promo again, as if we haven't seen it. So don't know what the next episode is gonna be, because I don't really want to look it up. I want just that little taste, because if I look it up, I'm gonna find. I mean, it's the internet. You'll find more than you kind of want to know, admittedly. So I wait, and I'll just know nothing about it. But I know that we have some amazing stuff coming up. So I am looking forward to what we're gonna have. I know the only thing in the promo so far that I think there are like maybe 3 scenes from the promo that we haven't had yet, and I'm looking forward to both those episodes if they're separated. But Hera and Ezra, where Ezra's doing this Jedi mind trick to kind of clear out what I'm going to assume is a complete Star Destroyer, and then the scene with Zeb and Callus. So if those are separate episodes, looking forward to them. Even if they're one episode, that'd actually be really cool. But I think that's too much awesome stuff for one episode. Just considering, the Zeb Callus duel, and Hera and Ezra on a mission together is actually kind of awesome. So definitely looking forward to finally getting those scenes in whatever episodes they're gonna show up in. But definitely want to know what you guys thought about this episode. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And because this was our second Force centric episode after Zeb's kind of family home mission, I want to know what you guys think of the Force episodes that we've had in this series so far. I think we've only really had 3. Oddly enough, this episode, the last, and Ezra's trip to find his lightsaber, which was definitely a great episode. But I want to know, what you guys think about the Force-based episodes, where it's not about the action, it's about, Ezra's connection to the Force, and sometimes even Kanan's connection to the Force, and just the way that they've done it in this series. Personally, I think has been really well. I guess another really good Force-based episode was when Ezra was looking for his parents during the mid-season finale. That was definitely a Force-centric episode, where it was just like he's seeing all of these different things, and that, of course, was like the personal connection because it was his parents. But that was a really good one too. But I think they've certainly done Force-based episodes very well. The very first one, I think, was sort of our typical style. Not that that's bad in any way, shape, or form, but Ezra, when he was going through the trials and he got his crystal and everything, that was sort of what we would come to expect from a Force-based episode. And then we have sort of just these wild visions that he has of his parents, and then this episode, and the last episode where we get a different side of the Force from a totally different species. That I thought that was very well done too. So I love all the Force-based episodes. I always do, because it's just fun. Sometimes it doesn't have to always be action. In Star Wars, there is a lot of great lore that can just be talked about, and it's fun to watch. And I think in this show they've definitely done it pretty well. But I definitely want to know what you guys think. So please Comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.